You can move the middle. I'm going to keep this. Ekaterina, thank you so much for joining us. It's really good to have you here. Like I said, you've traveled around and worked in different areas. How do you get to be here in the cybersecurity space?
Today when I entered, I communicated and we chat with some colleagues and I said, oh, Ekaterina, you're from Bosch. What are you doing? Cybersecurity. That's the reaction. So, and that's a good question, how we end up in this cybersecurity stuff. So actually, my journey started with supply chain and logistics. So I've been many years working in this area. And I did also implementation of SAP. So that's how I also end up also in IT area. And then followed by different implementations of IT systems in the purchasing, in the finance area. But considering the fact that also additional to my, let's say, economical education, I also have a law degree. I'm also a lawyer. So
conference, you're not the right conference.
So, and there was a time when having, extensive business and IT background, and we knew that at Bosch many regulations, which was prior to GDPR implementation in Europe, it was a good fit because you need understanding of IT that we've been talking about, the translating, and all these regulations, stuff, and so on. So, and this is basically how we end up in the privacy and cybersecurity, which nowadays, of course, it's one of the topics because if you look at the risk of all global companies, cybersecurity top 3 risks. And that's why actually I think it starts to be more and more an agenda of the board of management and conferences like that.
Yeah. It is interesting why that has risen up in the, 15, 20 years ago, perhaps we wouldn't even have a session on this. Now you could write a 3-day conference program just on cybersecurity in supply chains, right? So what is it that's causing that? What is it that's bringing it in the management conversations? Why is it a big risk, I suppose?
I give you a couple of factors actually why we see also why this topic is coming up. Factor number 1, it's of course increase of connectivities in our manufacturers, right? So today you go to the car and it's fully connected. So its potential risk is there. Everything is in the cloud. This is number 1. Number 2 is also the softwares that are used in the cars, right? And the suppliers, because as an OEM, you really need to trust. Today we've been talking a lot about the trust. You have to trust that really the suppliers, tier 1, tier 2, they are proper suppliers, and you have also the good and very quality-oriented systems in place. Another factor is the legacy. Today, I think almost in every discussion there was topic of legacy, but also it comes to us when it comes to cyber. Because if you have the legacy system and you have the new technologies, how do you patch all these things? You do the patchwork. Because you have to make sure that all your legacy that you're building for ages nowadays really can be secure. And the other point, which we see quite a lot, is also the complexity of the whole supply chain as well, because you have more and more, and also as Bosch, we're a tier 1 supplier, so we also have tier 2 and N suppliers, so we also have to rely on them and to make sure that it's working. I'll give you one real example that could be interesting, because we had one tier 2 supplier in US. So, and at a certain point, I just got the call and I said the supplier was hacked. And we have very big issue because it was both know-how of many divisions. And this case, we've been working with FBI in US because of the supplier. So in this case, we did all possible to onboard the supplier, make sure they have everything in place. But still, such things can happen. And then as a Bosch, we are liable. So we need to interact with the supplier. We needed to interact with FBI in order to make sure that data is not in the risk for the Bosch company.
That's important, isn't it? Because, you've got a whole supply chain. It's okay to secure your company or the silos within your company and interaction within. But then there's a second company, and then a third company, a fourth company, and then you get down to smaller companies.
Correct.
And that risk is multiplied every time you have another partner. So how do you, in terms of end-to-end, because we talked about cybersecurity, but from end to end, how do you alleviate some of those risks? Is it just communication with organizations, training? How does that actually work in terms of reducing that risk?
This is a very good question. I'm usually asked by people outside of cybersecurity, how can we make sure that we are secured 100%? Give me the measures. Guys, there is no 100% security. You can hack everything. So this is message number 1. So what you can do, you can mitigate and you can do the prevention measures, right, to reduce this risk. Because also today, our consumers are very well educated. So people know more about privacy. We talk a lot. So all of us, as soon as we're in the car, it's connected. So my kids, they're entering the car, they're saying, "Hi Google, good morning, tell me, how should we drive to school today?" So it's everything there. So now you're asking, how can we reduce that and mitigate? Number one, what we at least do at Bosch, when we have let's say suppliers that we have to rely, because again, you're relying as OEMs on us as a Bosch. So we have, of course, very good cybersecurity and privacy systems in place, because we need to make sure that if we have any suppliers, they are fully compliant with our regulation and external regulation. As example, every supplier, every provider that we have, which in the end, again, supporting the OEMs, is going through the audit processes. We have the ISO certify the auditors, and we go in making sure that those providers, they are really fulfilling all the regulations. So another thing also, of course, is a topic that in companies like Bosch, because I have heard one of the colleagues mention that big companies, they can ensure and afford to have proper cybersecurity organization, privacy expert. But probably small organizations, they don't have that. And that's the question, okay, how can we do that? Yeah, so of course it's also one of the part how we mitigate, because we have professional organization built to really that we look from the beginning until the end in our supply chain, and we also communicate, of course, the same message to the outside of the organization. But another example, maybe more practical, what I would like also to give you, it's not only that many people know the Bosch is a tier 1 supplier, but some of you probably know, some not, that also Bosch, we support many OEM companies from the service side. So if you call Mercedes, Porsche, etc., the call center, so you think that you talk to Mercedes or Porsche guys, you're talking to Bosch. Because we are behind that. So we support working as, let's say, call center. I make it in the simple language. So it means that, and we have hundreds number of those companies that we're supporting. Just imagine the amount of data that we are processing. So then from other side, also as a Bosch, we have requirements towards the OEM companies, because we get all the data from all of you to process in case of you reaching at the companies. So of course we have also to be compliant, and that's why we're also ensuring and make as much as we can, right, the monitoring system, the response time, the teams and the experts as well.
And that's key, isn't it? Because you've got, the more digitalized and the more partners we have, the more risks you're going to have. And as we go forward into an ultra-digital era, where you've got a lot of organizations having a lot of data, having a lot of connections, is to reduce that as much as possible, because the malicious attacks won't come to the big companies, right? They'll go to the small companies and try and attack the whole supply chain, the big organizations, through the smaller enterprises. So that's really important that the end-to-end supply chain is protected as much as possible. I just want to throw it open to any questions from the audience in terms of anyone who's looking at cybersecurity. Like I said, even if it's not in your job title, the risks that you face from a cybersecurity attack will impact the role you're having, whatever that role is within the supply chain. So I'm just going to throw it up before I go to conclusion. Got one here, sorry.
Maybe before this very, very nice thing, because usually when you don't hear anybody was hacked, you think, okay, it's good, so it's not concerning me. So we start to think only when we hear that somebody was hacked and we recognize that there is an issue. But we are not recognizing there is a very big defense team and behind who are actually making sure that it's not happening. Just as a side remark that sometimes, yeah, we don't need to wait until something happens, please.
It's preventative. Go on.
So how do you look now at what we talked about before about generative AI and all, because there's a lot of some, it's open source, others not open source, but to train it, and people are using this. I mean, how do we make secure that these are not getting like open doors to follow in, and also not only on cybersecurity, but also on data security and so on? Like, how do you look at it? Is it like, oh great, we have all these opportunities, or is the risk part in you saying, oh my gosh, what's coming now up here? And how do you address this at Bosch?
Very good question, because we also in the beginning of this journey, because it's also new for us, since November 2022, nobody have heard about ChatGPT. So now all of a sudden we all We are experts in ChatGPT, and of course, companies should respond to that. So the last actually 6 months, the topic number one, the frequently asked questions, I can put AI in ChatGPT. So this was like, can we use it? What can we do? And so on. So indeed at Bosch, of course, especially when it comes, to more consumer goods orientation, mostly not so much in automotive sector, I have really to say, we have this topic, and so far we allowed to use that. Of course, what we do, we are making more awareness for our organizations in order how to make sure that you are not sharing confidential data, that you are not placing personal data, right? So we're always trying to, be open-minded. Guys, please come to us, consult. Let's look individually on your case, because again, it's new for us as well, this kind of topic. But my opinion that you can't stop the technologies, because as soon as, let's say, ChatGPT was published, many governmental authorities, they start to put the ban. Italy said, no ChatGPT, forbidden, full stop. So comes then business from Italy and said, okay, Ekaterina, what should we do? I mean, this kind of stuff. So my opinion that you can't stop the development of the technologies, so we just need to learn how to swim and to think how can we prevent this risk in the end of the day. So that's why we're working on that. We're putting our tails together with IT guys, with legal guys, with cybersecurity, really to support the business to make sure that if you use that, just make sure that you use it in the compliant way.
Any other questions before we go? Can't see that one. There's one here, sorry. There's one here. Thank you.
When it comes to those big IT systems or big infrastructure, definitely there are processes and ways of handling this and huge amount of expertise right now. What is your experience with actually managing the situation of cybersecurity when it comes to end users? When they, for example, suddenly start managing business on WhatsApp?
Good question. Especially about WhatsApp. By the way, at Bosch, WhatsApp is not allowed. So, no. We have full ban of WhatsApp for the business purposes, completely. So no matter what, but we have very strong push, especially from Latin America. Just last week I had another call where I said, guys, but our customers, they work with WhatsApp, so we need that because, again, we're losing the market. But the good thing, basically answering the question before from the colleague, we found the Bosch compliance solution. We call it Bosch Chatbot, Suite Chatbot. It's solution in between. So we have a customer, we have Meta, solutions, and we said, okay, but we need something in between that we can do the filter, just explain same language. So we found a Bosch solution on-prem, so basically that we can filter this communication. So this is the first pilot that we are now trying to implement in Latin America. So in this case, we said no direct communication via WhatsApp, but still you can use WhatsApp and to have actually AI technologies in between, especially for the call centers as well, because usually this is where all this communication comes. But we are piloting now in Latin America, and if it goes well, then I think we can really scale up, and believe me, as soon as I push the button that we can do that, business was happy because like, yeah, finally we can do that. But in this case, again, we need to really to search against solutions that can be secure, compliant, and to work in this direction with the end users. And just to answer also in terms of end users, we have also very strong processes in place. So basically every Bosch product, it doesn't matter if it's automotive, non-automotive sector, they usually go through the certain compliance and cybersecurity checks, the full scope. And then we're making sure that before we release any product in the market, it's compliant, because again, we are liable for that. So we're pretty strict on that matter. But from another hand side, you can imagine that we always need to level up our knowledge, because new technologies are coming and business coming with the questions. Please help us to make sure that it's compliant.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, go on, just say. To get the mic to you. No WhatsApp, by the way, so.
No WhatsApp, for business communication, for
sure,
business.
No WhatsApp, that's
Exactly.
a good takeaway. Go on, sorry, go on.
No, but then a follow-up question. In order to do that, you have to equip all of your end users with devices that are compliant.
Not necessarily.
Yeah?
No, not necessary. So we have certain, let's say, infrastructural things in place that can really prevent us from the major, let's say, threats, etc. But we don't do anything in terms of the users, because we have standards, apps, We have social media, we have applications, you know, for the different suppliers for our users. So we don't have anything specific for our users.
Do you allow the Bosch apps to be installed on employees' private devices?
Yes, some of them, yes. As soon as it's not strictly confidential data, yeah, why not? Yes, of course. We even promote that, you know, especially for the awareness, you know, if you can get more about the Bosch, or you can build career with the company, also in terms of the awareness of the compliance topics we do have. Yes, you can, some of them you can easily download and no problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from up here? Can't see. No? I just want to touch upon one of the key enablers to reducing some of the risk is the people side, because you mentioned, you know, you get together with your legal colleagues, your cybersecurity colleagues, your IT colleagues. How do you get to that stage where, you know, you're working, you know, you got the right mindset across a different set of people and the right culture as well to enable all of these things to happen? So talk to us about the people side of reducing that risk.
That's a good question. I would turn it more into the topic of culture. Because we need, and we still, my opinion, we still can do better at Bosch, really to promote more cybersecurity culture and privacy. The same also when I talk to my peers, I still see the same. I would like to do quick test. Please raise your hand if you know your cybersecurity department and what they are doing.
This is being recorded. I'm joking. Go on.
It's not really the half. I would say 30, 40%. Okay, so congratulations. So if you raise the hand, so you can clap and say, well done. So well done from your cybersecurity department.
All the others to stay behind.
Yeah, so if you did raise the hand, it's okay, no problem. So now you know what to do. So you return to the office and you check who is responsible for cybersecurity in your organization, okay? But that's exactly the topic of the culture, right? Because again, it's everywhere now, but we have talked the whole day about connectivity. And this is the basics. If you don't have proper cybersecurity systems, methodologies, processes in place, you can implement whatever you want. What we also, and especially considering geopolitical situation, when situation with Ukraine and Russia started, because also Bosch has many companies, we also needed to leave the Russia, the first 6 months after the war, or they call it special operation, we saw massive attacks also at Bosch, because we also had the crisis team through the whole company, and really it was a time when we needed really to put all our tails together and make sure that we don't have any severe hack attacks, because we've been bombarded, the same as many other industries, right? Because it was a German company, especially when they hear Bosch, okay, manufacturer, etc. So, and that's the thing. And through these things, you have really to raise awareness that this is the basics. Yeah. We don't need something addition to that. That's what we're doing with my organization. We're really working on raise awareness to show that, again, when you hear cybersecurity, it's like, ooh, it's not the ghost, it's fine. We're also humans, right? So we just support to make sure that you sleep well. That's the most important. And also talk about that. So also encourage, if you work in IT area, to work, I call it cybersecurity or privacy evangelist, to talk about this kind of stuff, yeah, in the end of the day, and just to realize that it should be embedded in every process. We talk about embedded before embedded digitalization, and in addition, it should be every part of the strategy, digital cybersecurity. This is at least what I'm always talking with the board of management, with everybody who is in charge for digitalization. Guys, I want to see part of your strategy, one box or whatever, cybersecurity, because you can't implement anything without having the cybersecurity as a part of your digital strategy.
And you can't run the business without having cybersecurity as one of the core elements, because it does, like I said, you can do everything else, but if cybersecurity is one attack, it could actually impact a lot of the things that we talk. You know, we talk about trying to reduce the risk of disruptions, but this is a major disruption, right? Just before I round up, any other questions from the floor? I know it's a fireside chat, but this is a fireside. We've got one over there, I think. It's a fireside chat without the fire. Next time we'll get
next time.
Yeah, next
time, please.
Even if it's artificial.
And glühwein.
Hologram.
And glühwein.
Glühwein, yeah.
It's warm enough in here without a fire. I think we're good with that. Not so much a question, but just to add around the employee experience and employee cybersecurity. At JLR, we've been rolling out cybersecurity awareness campaigns for many, many years, not just in the workplace, but giving individuals the tools and the techniques to understand if they're personally being attacked and hacked. We have a lot of associates, I'm sure many of the OEMs, where they don't have digital devices in their workplace. They're there to fit equipment or clean or be maintenance individuals. But we run a number of road shows to people learn how to capture phishing, capture people getting after their banking. And whilst that's an individual attack, individuals play a big part in our company. So I think it's an important message when you're training individuals around cyber, it's about their personal cyber experience as well, because that can indeed impact your company if people are hit individually. So just a comment on the user stories. Thank you.
That's a very good point. I just would like to give you 2 comments on that, and 1 comment and one example. What we have at Bosch, because I think that and truly believe that awareness is the paramount, because you have to reach each and every employee, because again, if you talk somebody in IT, they still understand that's important. But as soon as I step out in the classical logistics, and I started, so I know how the people in the, down in the production think. For them, it's like, come on, don't bother me with such things. Marketing, sales, they even don't want to open the discussion about it.
Nothing against marketing or salespeople.
Yeah, but that's normal because you work in the different domain. And now what we do, we call it data security partners in our organization. They're across the globe. So, and they have responsibility for each and every department. So of course they're assigning their responsibilities, and they're having the awareness every month to the departments. So they have responsibility. So it means every department under our control, and we're making sure that we are employing awareness across the whole organization. But you're right, as long as it's not touching you personally, you're like, okay, I have heard, but I don't know. I had one example where one of the sales vice presidents calls me on my vacation, because also it's my job, it's other side, I have to be available 24 hours. Vacation, not vacation, because usually all the attacks are like Log4j happen exactly on the Christmas time. So, and you have to work, you have to pull all the experts together, because the whole production was really under risk. And then he calls me and said, I was blackmailed. Yeah, I was blackmailed. So what can we do? And then the hackers, they continue, to push, to get some money, etc. So in a certain moment, okay, we needed to do certain actions. But since then, he's, I think, the expert in the cybersecurity, it switched immediately. So we've been invited to all sales conferences, to all events to talk about cybersecurity, because it's really affected him personally. So that's just one example, that don't think and don't wait until somebody will hack you. Yeah, think that it's already inside, and think about that just accept and think that's part of our daily life.
Yeah, and increasing awareness across the organisation, like I said, is very, very... Talking of increasing awareness, look, the last point, I just want to get your advice on something for the good colleagues here. As we have more regulations coming on board, whether data management or cybersecurity or AI, and we've seen some regulations and concerns being talked about already, what would your advice be for organisations, how they prepare for some of the compliance issues that are going to come out from these regulations that are going to come on board?
It's a very good question, because indeed I realize that many companies, and us as a Bosch, we only probably on this year realize what's in front of us in terms of legislation. Also, today I have heard many times was mentioned topic of standardization, frameworks, legalization, etc. But what we see right now in Europe, because all this massive technology development is approaching us, after GDPR was implementing, all the companies, we need to have somebody regarding the privacy. But now if you look, now in the European Parliament, from 2024 to 2026, we have massive amount of regulations our way. Cybersecurity Resilience Act, the AI Act, the Data Marketing Act, and so on and so forth. So NIS2, update of the NIS2, which impact all IoT connected products. So Bosch, we're number one who is impacted, almost the whole Bosch. And now the question, how do we prepare ourselves? It's not 1, 2, they all come more or less in the same time. And if I look in the Cybersecurity Resilience Act, means that we have to prepare our product to be compliant already as a part of the development. So means that the whole, the part of engineering process and development needs to be adapted, that we in 2026, 2027, we're able to comply with these regulations. So, and that's the reason why, again, in my role, I start to voice it even more prominent because, again, it's not 1 or 2 divisions that will impact the whole Bosch. So now we're only in the beginning to form so-called data compliance board, because it's not only cybersecurity, it's the technical developments, intellectual property, the legal part, etc., that we can look together, because all these regulations, they're cross-functional. Yeah. So what does it mean for business? Because business will ask, okay, but tell me what to do. Yeah. Don't tell me the regulations coming. Tell me practically what I should do. 1, 2, 3. Right? So that's it. So if you come and say, Ekaterina, don't tell me regulations article. You tell me 1, 2, 3, and I will do that. But so in the scale of Bosch, that's quite a challenge. So that's why just be aware, if you work with connected products, the next 2 years will massively impact, and start really address this topic in your organization, because it's better to start to preparing now organization and to have easy implementation rather than 2026, because most of them will be valid from 2026, because at least that we get now from Brussels, because we also of course have our connections in Brussels. And that's what we start to look right now, holistically from the Bosch.
That's really excellent advice. Hopefully a lot of you will take that on board. So key takeaways really, be aware, because it's going to happen, right? Be ready to comply, because you've got regulations that you're going to look forward to. And just expect the unexpected, because it will happen. And the more we prepare along the supply chain, not just your organization, but every organization in your value chain work towards that, then we suppose we'll be a bit more secure. So with that, Ekaterina will be around for the rest of the afternoon, and so you can ask more questions. But in the meantime, thank you very much.
Welcome, my pleasure. Thank you.